Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
me, Rob. And we got some rumor hazards.
Rumor has it we got all kinds of stuff here. We even got a segment we were supposed to do last episode yesterday and just completely skipped it somehow. So we got it today instead.
Whoopsie.
Whoopsie daisy. But then we got a bunch of people also talking trash about the Giants. I don't know how they could do that. This organization is so well run. This seems crazy to me. We'll hear them out. We'll hear them out. See what they have to say. And then we also got Victor Cruz chiming in on who he thinks the Giants should get to be their quarterback next season there. Xavier McKinney talking more trash as well. Tyler Nubin talking about ready to step up next year. And then we got a topic that kind of randomly came out there yesterday during the comment section. I thought, let's do a little research. Let's actually take a look at it. So we'll get into that there at the very tail end here. So let's start off with the one we forgot to do yesterday.
Whoops.
Joe Schoen talking about Shedeur Sanders. So obviously Shedeur Sanders is, let's be frank, guys, probably the front runner for the Giants to be picking up here with that third overall pick. He was talking about him on an interview on Giants.com. He said he's a great kid. He's a great kid. I don't know why he repeated it, but he did. A really good personality, football smart. His dad is a football coach. It's a little bit cliche, but he checks all the boxes of a player with a dad that is a football coach and the passion that he approaches the game with. It was really good getting to meet him. He's had a really good career at Colorado, and obviously looking forward to getting to knowing all those guys in the rest of the process. So, yeah, interesting because he didn't really talk too much about, hey, we're looking for a quarterback. He's a quarterback. Yeah. I was kind of hoping for something along those lines, but he can't show his cards. You know, how many times do we see that where teams would used to jump up in front of the Giants because they knew who we wanted? Like, that was, you know, not a good thing to see happening on a regular basis there. Like, remember we got Prince Amukamara, who was like our third choice in that draft because everybody kept moving ahead of us. You know, look at like when the Eagles moved ahead of us to get Smith in the trade with the Cowboys. They got the Cowboys Micah Parsons. You know, there's a few things that have happened like that because we showed our hand. So I'm kind of disappointed, but kind of glad, if that makes sense. I'm kind of on both sides of that coin. You know, like I said, I'm indifferent on the whole Sanders thing. I really am. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to question.
Definitely a lot to question.
Yeah. You know, and listen, we all see it, we all hear it. It's arm strength issues. It's the fact that he played with some good receivers, obviously, there at Colorado. Didn't exactly play the toughest competition because it's Colorado, you know, but I feel like some of those are knocks to the same degree because of who he is and how outspoken he is. So we got to kind of take both those with a grain of salt to a certain degree. You know, it's funny how nobody ever said that about Josh Allen when he came out. Like, oh, he played at a small school. You know, no one ever said that about Phillip Rivers when he came out. Oh, he played at a small school. Like, it's weird how I do hear people saying that with Sanders. And I definitely think there's some hate because of his daddy.
I was about to say there's hate because it's who his father is. Like, oh, if he was such a good player, why didn't he play at a bigger school?
Because that's not where his daddy was coaching.
Yeah, obviously.
And that's my biggest concern. You know, I've said that before. Is like this is going to be the first time him actually leaving the nest. Like his dad's been with him in high school, was there with him at college, both stops. It's like this will be his first time without dad as the coach or coordinator for him. And you know, he's got to hope that you can figure out in the interview process if that's something that's going to be an issue, or if you think that he's going to be mentally tough enough to handle New York by himself without his dad there. You know, and that's why, you know, we did our last mock draft. We had, you know, got one of his receivers and his brother there later in the draft because he's going to need a support system, I think. I don't care how mature you are. I don't care how good a person you are. It's not personal knocks. This is going to be his kick him out of the nest scenario, which most kids go through when they leave high school and go to college. With him, the nest just traveled with him.
Yeah, it's definitely a little more extreme than just kicking out of nets. It's like that bird that should have been a birdling that was kicked out of nest that was supposed to learn how to fly is now an adult bird that's getting kicked out of nest and never learned how to fly.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's a different thing. But I mean, you got, like I said, the interview process. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The interview process is just so important with this kid. It's not even funny. More important, and don't get me wrong, they're all important, obviously, because my theory on the combine. Never should change your opinion. It just should solidify it potentially, if anything. But the interview process is going to be so big with him. It's not even funny. So, we'll see what happens. But it's good to see that the Giants are openly talking about him, because it does say to the extent that they do have interest in him. Because I don't know about y'all, but I in the back of my head, I got this thing going like, watch the Giants be like, we're just going to sign somebody as a free agent. That's it. We're not going to draft a quarterback at all. Like, they've had 3 years to do it with Daniel Jones as their quarterback, and they didn't draft a single quarterback those 3 years. I'm sorry. That is absolutely franchise mismanagement there. Like, you literally had one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, if not the worst. And you're like, well, we'll just wait till next year. Or the next year.
We'll see what happens.
Or the next year. So, I'd love to hear them say that they're going to definitely draft a quarterback at some point. But, again, they're not going to. That would be bad for them to do. It just would give me a little bit of reassurance. Like, okay, maybe they're not as stupid as I think.
They're going to fully draft 3 quarterbacks.
Listen, as long as one of them's good, I don't care how many they draft. I really don't. Get me a good one. Damn it. I'm tired of being embarrassed.
We're going to take a shot at the first round, second round, and fourth round.
Go for it. Go like Washington did back in the day. Go get Russell Wilson. Go get Kirk. Go Russell Wilson. I'm sorry. Go get RG3. Go get Kirk Cousins, and hope one of them hits. So
yeah.
All righty. Let's get into the people that are bashing the Giants. We got 3 of them here. We're going to sandwich it a little bit. After the first 2, we'll give you a little bit of good news to sandwich it a little bit here. So first one is Saquon's mom talking trash about the Giants. There she is with her Campbell's chunky soup. It's literally where that picture came from, that commercial. She was talking to a press after the NFC Championship game, and she was asked point blank why Barkley never reached the level with the Giants that he has with the Eagles. And she said, "You really want me to answer that? Everyone else knows why it didn't happen. It's great for him to finally be somewhere where he was able to showcase his talent without people talking about this or that, hearing that running backs don't deserve this or deserve that. Yeah, okay, now we see." Seems like Mama got some pent-up frustration there.
Just a bit.
Just a smidge there. And listen, I've said it all along. Listen, Saquon's having an excellent season. One of the best seasons you'll ever see a running back do in your lifetime, like point blank. There's no taking that away from him whatsoever. But his mama got to realize some few things here. One, the graphic keeps going around about, okay, look at the Packers, the Eagles, the Ravens, they picked up running backs. Look how great they're doing this year. Well, yeah, but were the Raiders that good with them? Were the Titans that good with him? Were the Giants that good with Saquon? Like, can you really sit here and tell me the offense was that much worse last year because we didn't have Saquon?
We won half the games.
And I'm not trying to like belittle or be mean about it with Saquon or his family or anything, but it's like I look at the Giants offense, and yes, it was absolutely inept. But Tyrone Tracy Jr. did just about as good this year as Saquon did last year. Like, there wasn't a huge drop-off from the production we got.
Yeah.
So I do think that they need to kind of understand that part of it, that it was a business decision. Did the Giants go about it in the best way? You know,
No.
no, of course not. Absolutely not. I'll
Well,
tell you that myself.
All right. So, what was Tracy's salary this past year?
Jack and shit.
Yeah, less than a mil.
I mean, it's 5th round pick. Not going to get much.
Yeah. So what's he like 700,000? Where it is?
I can look it up here. I was actually looking something else up here. Let's talk about it in a second. Let me take a look here. It's gonna take me a second.
Yeah. All I'm just saying is you're talking about a guy that literally like Barkley is one of the best. There's nothing you can take away from that.
100%.
He is phenomenal. But at that point, you don't pay a running back on a team you're trying to rebuild. It's where Shane came from. Like, do you agree with everything the way Shane handled it?
No,
Probably not. But what you got to look at is now you got a rookie guy that you picked up really late in the draft who's cost you probably less than $1 million, which is over 13 times cheaper, probably going to be closer to the vicinity of 17 times cheaper. And yes, did he put up 200,000 yards this year? No.
well, 2,000, not 200,000.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
That'd be the best season ever by far.
Tenfold. Yeah. Well, thousandfold. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you took a little bit of a pay cut, well, a big pay cut to take a little bit less production, and a team that you're trying to rebuild.
Yeah.
So you build yourself back up the line, build yourself a better quarterback, do the right moves, and then you pay the running back. The only time you should really be paying a running back, top tier running back like that is where you're a playoff team.
Yeah, and by the way, this number is 866,500. I'll give you the half. That's literally what he's making on the cap this year. Well, just doesn't even hit over like $1.25 million.
Yeah, so
rookie
Barkley if you would have paid him $13 million, was making 15 times.
I don't see the big drop off in the offense, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to what Barkley did. Great season. I'm not trying to take that away, but I think the other thing that his mama got to realize is this is the same team that made DeAndre Swift a 1,000-yard rusher. Point blank. This is the same team that made Miles Sanders a 1,200-yard rusher. Like you got to recognize some of that stuff there. You know, it's like there's part of that equation into there. Like the Eagles the last couple of years have literally made running backs. What did DeAndre Swift do last year? Absolutely nothing.
Hey, it fell off the wagon. All the guys that moved. And
look at Miles Sanders. He hasn't even had 600 yards in 2 seasons. He had 200 yards this past season. That's all he had. You know, and you look at the yardage per attempt for DeAndre Swift. He went from 4.6 last year to 3.8 this year.
Yeah.
I just think that there's got to be concessions made on both sides to a certain degree on this whole thing. Like, was Shane a bit of a jerk? Yes, 100%. 100%. We've never said otherwise. We've not been fans of Shane. We don't sit there and back him. But at the same point, people got to recognize, including Saquon and his family, that part of the reason Saquon is having such a great year this year is because of the offense he's in, because of the offensive line he has. And you don't take that away from Saquon. But you got to, and I'm not saying like put an asterisk on a season or anything like that. I'm not trying to be crazy like that. But I think you got to include that as part of the equation when you go like, if the Giants should or should not have re-signed him.
Yeah. You're looking at a player that has not put up that kind of yards for the Giants.
No.
And ever. And you got like also remember like, would he have had a better season if he would have stayed this year than last year? Yes. 100%, because the offensive line didn't improve. But then you go into the struggle of the quarterback play. So that we know where the ball's come from. At least when you go to the Eagles, better offensive line, better quarterback play, great receivers on the field. So it allows the guys when they go to play action, are they actually throwing it or are they actually running it? When we went to play action last year, 80% of the time it was a run play.
Yep.
Probably 90% of the time it was a run play. It wasn't play action at all. It was let's act like we're going to throw the ball and then don't.
Yeah, it's like I said, the offense is horrendous this year. Last year, it's been horrendous for years. And I just, like I said, I just look at what Saquon did for us, and I appreciate what he did. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not trying to be as bad as Shane. I just think, like I said, they got to recognize some of his success at the very least he's having this year.
Yeah.
His scheme. Some of his success having this year is because of the line. Some of his success is because, like you mentioned, there's now the threat of actually passing the ball, which there hasn't been when Saquon was a Giant. You know, there's all these factors that go into it there. So congrats on the season. Like, I'm not trying to hate on Barkley. Though I wish it was a different team he was having the season with.
Yeah.
But in the end, I don't get the bitterness that his mom has towards the team like that. It's like, move on. Because now you got people like us and people, talking heads that all across ESPN and Fox Sports that are going to talk about this stuff now.
Well,
and that's not what Saquon needs.
No, it's not.
I mean? Like, that's not what Saquon needs going into his very first Super Bowl.
No, that's just his mom being a mama. That's exactly what it is. It's like
stick to your Campbell's Chunky Soup commercials. Because this is not doing your son any service whatsoever. You know, and it's we talk about this all the time with people whose family members talk often and talk negatively. Like, how much was it Jackson Mahomes? Is that the name of Patrick Mahomes' brother? That gets dragged on all the time for saying stupid stuff. But then you got somebody like, Donna Kelsey, who is like America's mom to a certain degree because she's just happy-go-lucky and never talks trash because she lets her kids handle that part. That's what your role is. You're not supposed to make it more difficult. So, like I said, I ain't got nothing but respect for what Barkley did as a Giant. I really don't. But I think that a year later to be still making this, who hurt you? Like, get over it. Like, you're in a better place for your son's in a better place to showcase his talents. That's obvious. It's just like I said. It's crazy to me. Just move on. Move on. So, but what makes it hard to move on? When more and more people are talking trash about the Giants, Austin Ekeler now too. Oh my God!
Son of a gun.
Ugh, of all people. And now he was on the Dan Le Batard Show. People may remember him from his ESPN days. They had a pretty big falling out when he left there, and he's got his own show online now. He says, while talking to Dan, he said, just seeing running backs have success and make a huge impact on their team and help their team out, like Saquon, it's cool. It's really cool to see the guys that were getting shuffled around and kind of, I don't know if these guys can still play or if they'll make an impact. Yeah, like the Giants. Oh, what a joke over there letting this guy go. Then he even referenced Joe Schoen and Hard Knocks. This is where the Hard Knocks come back to bite the Giants so bad in the butt, it's not even funny. And he said, prime Saquon. And he quotes him, I don't know who's going to pay this guy $12 million. Well, he's going to carry our offense, so everybody. Anyway, don't get me started there. So, yeah, Austin Ekeler, not saying some nice things. And, Austin Ekeler is one of those guys, I feel like the biggest issue for him is that man, and I don't want to say it like negatively because he got paid. But that man did not get paid as much as his production was, if that makes sense. Like, he didn't get paid per yard, what you'd expect a player like that to get. You look at what he did, got 9,000 yards from scrimmage in his career now. Had 1,550 yards from scrimmage in 2019, 1,521, 1,622, 1,023. Those were his prime years. And LA, just kept they part of it. LA, he was with with the San Diego. They were still in San Diego too, but the Chargers kept delaying it more and more to where he just didn't get ever this massive, massive contract that a lot of players got. So I think that's more of his bitterness there. You know, he got 3 years, $1.67 million for his rookie contract as an undrafted rookie free agent. Then he got, as a restricted free agent, because he never was fully free until this past offseason, 4 years, $24.5 million. So think about that. He gave us 7 years of prime. 7 years of prime running back seasons.
For about $26 million.
Yeah, 26 and change. So I think he needs to kind of have that as a understanding that his issue is not with the Giants. Because Saquon got paid. Let's be very clear on that. Saquon got paid.
Yeah.
By the Giants because he was the number 2 overall pick. He got the franchise tag that 1 year. Saquon got paid. His issue with the Chargers, and he needs to put it towards the Chargers. He needs to stick out of things that don't concern him because he's got to fight for his own career at this point.
Yeah.
That's where he's at, guys. He had, besides his games against the Giants where they looked like an all-pro again, because we sucked this year about stopping the running back, he didn't look that good. You know, he didn't get a lot of carries overall. Was kind of used more as a receiving back than anything else. You know, I'm looking here at his stats and had barely over 350 rushing, barely over 350 receiving, which is not bad for a backup running back. Don't get me wrong. But he's obviously clearly not the lead back he was. And I think, like I said, I think that's where this is coming from. You spend 7 years as a lead back for a team, don't get paid that much money. And then all of a sudden, when you finally hit free agency, you're done. You're not the same player you were. That's the problem you run into there. So I just looked it up out of curiosity. Saquon is 6 years with the Giants, just shy of $49 million. So yeah, he's not hurting like Austin was.
Yeah.
You know,
he made some monies.
And I think there should be something for players that overplay their rookie deal. But here's the problem you'll run into with that is in that scenario, you need to have a situation to the reverse that and make it fair. I signed you to a big contract and you suck. Okay, now I can figure out a way to get rid of some of this. If you want that, but I'm saying if you want that rule where you outplay your contract, you get more money, it's got to be fair on both sides. And that's the problem you run into, is that the players would never be okay with that part of it.
Yeah, because look at the Browns eating a shoot ton of money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just craziness what's happened with these contracts. And it's weird how you see running backs who used to be, you know, in our time we were growing up, we had the Barry Sanders, the, you know, Emmitt Smiths of the world and stuff. Like we had a heyday of running backs there, so to speak, you know? And now it's like, lucky if you get a 1,000-yard rusher team. You know, it used to be you had a chance to get 2 even potentially. Remember the Giants had it a couple of years ago. Like a couple more than a couple now, but you know what I mean. With what was it years that was a Bradshaw and Ward that year? Each had 1,000, I want to say.
Sounds about right.
You know, but it happened. You're not gonna. It's not the same game like that. And if you really want to see teams value running backs, then you're gonna have to wait till the game goes back. And that's where the problem to run into is now. Let's say you had a kid, and you're like, "Let me raise this kid up to be a football player." Are you gonna be a running back? Nope.
Probably not.
Nope. You know, and that's probably why you see guys like Tyrone Tracy when he was in college fought being transferred over to a running back position. He was probably thinking in his head, I'm not going to make money this way. Now, it probably worked in his favor now because of how good he had a rookie year. We'll see what happens there overall. But like I said, it's a different game now. And unfortunately, I feel bad for running backs. I don't know what the fix is, guys. I like having solutions, not just be pointing out problems. I don't know what the fix is here. But, you know, this is what you got now. You got a guy that literally spent his prime time of his career and got paid what a prime receiver makes in 1 year.
Yeah.
No simple solution there. But like I said, I like to see him kind of let's leave the Giants alone. Go pick on the system, because that's what your problem's with, not with the Giants. Focus on that part of it. So, alrighty, let's pay the bills real quick, and then we'll get to a little more positive.
Oh yeah.
Pay the bills.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
Alrighty, guys. And of course, you can also support the show by doing a super chat on YouTube, sending stars on Facebook. And soon we will be opening up, like I said, the Goofball shop here as well here for you guys. We're in the process of working on some of that stuff there. It's probably the next week or two that'll be out. So we'll keep on letting you guys updated on that, let you know when that's up and running fully there. But there'll be some fun things that Rob and I have been working on. Some mugs, some candles, some hats, some shirts.
Oh yeah.
Not just with our logo and our faces, as much as I know you all want to have our faces on your body at times. But it's also some things knocking some other teams and maybe knocking ourselves a little bit there as well. So, like I said, I think it'd be stuff you guys will enjoy. So, all right, let's get into the next story. Like I said, we're trying to give you a little bit of positivity here. And I don't know if it's necessarily positive, but at least it's not negative. It's not someone bashing the Giants. We got Victor Cruz talking about who the Giants should get a quarterback and saying Darnold would be the perfect fit. I can't do this also. I can't dance whatsoever. I can't do it. I have no abilities whatsoever. Let's be honest. When I was a single man, it was my personality that got me anywhere at that point. It was definitely not my dance moves or my looks. Anyway, he was on did an interview with RG, which I got to be honest, guys, I never heard of RG before this. But apparently it's a newer sports publication there. Had an interview there we said was talking about the quarterback situation. They said in Cruz's ideal scenario, he says the Giants should target Darnold as a stopgap quarterback before ultimately selecting Texas Longhorns quarterback Arch Manning in the 2026 NFL draft to be their longtime future quarterback. He said, I think he's the perfect QB to go get, says Cruz in a one-on-one interview with RG of Darnold while speaking on behalf of his partnership with Finish Ultimate. He said, you obviously have to pay him a little bit, but I think from a cap perspective, we can afford him. I think he can come in, and then Arch Manning comes in. He doesn't necessarily have to start right away. He can learn from a guy like Sam Darnold. I got to say, I really hate hearing that kind of stuff, guys. And no disrespect to Cruz. Like, I think we all know if you're a Giants fan and you dislike Cruz, you're not a Giants fan. Sorry.
Get it out of here.
Yeah. Here's my issue. We have been dealing with such BS for how many years now? At the quarterback position, at the team as overall as a whole, that I hate when people go, oh, wait till next year. No, I'm tired of goddamn waiting.
Yeah, there's so many to wait.
But it's like, and I get where you run into this issue of like, okay, don't force the pick. Like, I get that. And I was all for that the last couple of years. I'm at the point now where force the goddamn pick. Get yourself a goddamn quarterback. Because we can't keep doing this. We got to figure this out.
Yeah, it's pretty sad at this point that
yeah.
Like, how many times are we gonna have to wait on this, like, to get a quarterback? How many times are like we've had how many years of Deion Jones playing terrible? Well,
6.
5.5.
Oh yeah, if you want to count 5.5, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just
here's the other problem with this. You get Darnold, guess what? Good luck getting Arch Manning. Because you win just enough games to be mediocre. Which, don't get me wrong, doesn't mediocrity sound good right now? Ooh, imagine being 8 and 9. Doesn't that sound nice?
Get 7 wins.
Like, seriously, that's sad that that's where we're at, but it is where we're at this point, you know. But that's the problem. Like I said, good luck. You're gonna have to trade down at that point. Let's say you get like pick like 12 or 13, which is, you know, just below average. Let's say you end up that kind of pick. You know what kind of capital you'd have to give up to give you number 1 overall and get Arch Manning? Assuming he goes number 1 overall, we'll see what happens. It's way too early to say for sure. And then on top of that, you have to hope the team that actually has that number 1 overall pick doesn't need a quarterback. Guess what, guys? Number 1 overall teams typically need quarterbacks. Crazy.
Typically why they're there.
Yeah, like this is why they're there. So like I said, I respect Cruz. I really do. I want to agree with the man just out of principle for everything he did for the franchise. Sorry, man. I can't agree with you this time. It is time to figure out this position. And I'm all for the bridge quarterback. Don't get me wrong. He's not wrong on that. Like if you want to go get Sam Darnold and it's a palatable contract, meaning like it's not going to put you in cap hell. You're not like doing all kinds of crazy stuff to make it happen. If that's your guy, that's fine. I'm cool with that. It's not my preference. My preference is Justin Fields, with Deb, I see you in the comments saying that the Steelers are probably going to keep him. But, you know, you're not going to keep him long. That's the sure. You're going to go ahead and get a quarterback, and you're going to hope that, you know, Darnold's only there for a year. Is Darnold going to take that kind of deal? Would Darnold even take a 2-year deal like he's suggesting, like Victor Cruz was suggesting there, of sitting for, you know, starting for a year and then being the mentor for year 2 and then being gone again? I think Darnold's looking for a long-term home here, guys.
I think so. I think he's looking for someone to get paid where he could kind of be in the potential run, maybe hopefully get one more payday after that. But like
I feel like he's like the guy who's been sleeping around for a while and he's looking to settle down now.
Yeah. Like
he's been on 3 teams the last 3 years after wasting years with the Jets.
You know, he was a guy that had a high school sweetheart. They went to college. The senior year they broke up, and he decided to play the field. And now he's way older in life, and he's looking to settle down.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he doesn't bring it all to the table anymore.
I mean, I never did. I mean, that's part of it. I think he's a mid quarterback there, basically, is what he is. You know, but he's 27. Like in the scenario Victor Cruz gave, he'd be 29, going back into free agency, needing the long-term home, which isn't a ridiculously old, guys, for a quarterback. If he was a running back, he'd be in trouble. But for a quarterback, that's not ridiculously old. But it makes it harder. Each year as you get older, it makes it harder. You know?
I mean, Kirk Cousins kind of did that.
Kirk Cousins was played as a starter for many years with Washington before he went to Minnesota. I mean, you could say that the analogy more like Geno Smith.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But, you know, and you're seeing now, Geno's talked about being a trade option and stuff like that because the Seahawks are like, okay, we're building this franchise back up. Can we rebuild with this guy at 35? After he just got started a couple of years ago. You know, that's the problem you run into. I don't see why Sam Darnold, like, ooh, the Giants, that's the scenario to go to. Unless he had no other option. Because it's not like there's a ton of teams that really need a quarterback right now. Like, you know, if you look at the teams out there that need a quarterback, okay, you could say maybe the Jets in the AFC East. Maybe the Jets. You know, we don't know what's going on with Rodgers. You know, you go to the North, you know, you got quarterbacks all around, maybe the Browns. You go to the South, you know, unless the Colts give up on Anthony Richardson, the only spot you'd have there is the Texans. Most teams aren't looking for a quarterback. This is not that year like it was last year where there's so many desperate for a quarterback. You know, the NFC East, we're the only ones looking. You know, the NFC West, kind of a crapshoot, some of that kind of stuff there, but you know, the Rams may look for an heir apparent, but they're not. It's not a must-have for them. The Seahawks, if they move from Geno, maybe. Niners and Cardinals are set. The NFC North is set across the entire board. You know, and the only team in the NFC South is maybe the Saints if they get rid of Carr. There's not 10, 12 options for these guys to go to this year, guys.
No.
You know, I see you, Dakota, there, by the way. The NFC East has one great quarterback, potentially. He's a rookie. I'm not going to call him great yet. but like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I don't see Sam Darnold be interested. I think a guy like a Russell Wilson, if Justin Fields does stay in Pittsburgh, I think Russell Wilson's probably the answer. A veteran guy, a guy who's going to be okay playing 1 or 2 years, and that's it. It's the way to go. It's the way to go. So, all righty. Let's get to one more guy bashing the Giants, because it's not a show without us talking about that at this point. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it counts as bashing per se. So that's why I didn't call the segment that. But McKinney saying the Giants didn't want me. He also seems a little hurt. There's a lot of people being hurt today.
He seems like a kind of sensitive guy. We're going to be.
Yeah. I mean, well, listen. There was a lot of issues with him, and I know from experience of things I've been told, there's a lot of issues with him that didn't even leak out. There was stuff that he said that, he likes to be kind of the center of attention to a certain degree. There was the issue he had that was public with Wink Martindale, where he basically called out the coaching staff. You had the stuff with obviously the trip to Mexico and the broken hand. There's definitely been some issues when he was there. And I feel like I don't disagree that Giants didn't want him. I think the Giants looked at him and said, here's a safety, not a peak position. Here is a guy that we can replace in the draft much cheaper. And plus, we've had a couple issues with him. And I know everybody looks at the interceptions he had this year. Ooh, the Giants missed that. Yeah, don't get me wrong. The Giants definitely missed that. But, guys, did you see Xavier McKinney doing that with the Giants?
No. I mean, you could also argue that schemes and, Winks, that's not how he's set up to play with Wink Martindale, because that's just how Wink.
He had 9 interceptions, though, in 4 years with us, guys. Had 8 last year with the Packers. What I'm kind of getting at is that may be his rookie. I'm sorry. Maybe his peak year. That may just be his best year he ever has. It's way too, it's way too crazy to sit there and say, like, this is a regular thing he's going to do year in, year out in Green Bay. He might have just had a peak year at the best, best time for the Packers to kind of validate their decision. I don't know. I think he's probably more like he was, with the Giants in like 23 and 21, when he was a really good player, got a couple interceptions. I don't think this is necessarily something you can count on a regular basis because he's never done it before. But like I said, there's definitely some issues that happen there behind the scenes. And like I said, I know there's more than what came out. I know that much. I'm not going to go too much into details, but, you look at what happened there, and you can't necessarily blame the Giants. But here's what McKinney said. This was a interview we had with Ari Merov of the 33rd team. Said, I could tell they didn't really want me there. I kind of knew that, but for me, it was just like I've still got to play well, and I still have got to do the best I can for this team right now. I was still with the team, and I was still all in, but I could kind of tell the direction they were going. And he was asked about the departure of all the other different Giants. Let's be honest, there's a lot of Giants that have left in the recent years, especially on defense. Leonard Williams, Julian Love comes to mind, obviously. There's been a lot of people that have left, and without the Giants getting anything back. And a lot of it's been kind of money situations. Didn't want to pay Julian Love, didn't want to pay Leonard Williams, for example. When asked about it, he just said, that's my old team. They go about their business a certain way, and they feel like how they do things is the right way. Ultimately, that's how they feel. I can't do anything but respect it and wish them the best of luck. That's really all I can do. And like I said, you can tell there's bitterness there on his part. We say they go about their business a certain way. That's code for they go about it the wrong way.
Yeah. Or it's like, they go about their own way. It could be like McKinney saying, like, hey, I try to tell them this is what they need to do, or maybe we should try this. And they're like, no, we're doing it this way.
Yeah.
And shut him down.
Yeah. Like I said, I get where he's coming from, because nobody ever wants to go and be like, oh, well, my old boss didn't want me after all. Like, they just let me walk out the door. Like, nobody likes that feeling. So I get where he's coming from, but he's got to also recognize that he had some issues when he was here in New York. And that's part of the reason he's gone. Between that and the money issues, because I can tell you this, it was reported that he said point blank the Giants were given a chance to match the offer the Packers gave him. Point blank. And they declined it. And that just tells me he wanted to be a Giant. So I think that's where a lot of this is coming from at his end. He wanted to be a Giant, and he's upset he's not a Giant anymore, but he's got to move on. I don't think the Giants necessarily did wrong by him at all. And he didn't do wrong by them either. Let me be very clear on that. It's like McKinney said, I want to come back to be a Giant. Here's the offer I got. And the Giants said, that's too rich for our blood. And they parted ways.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be drama. But McKinney sometimes causes a little drama. He's definitely got a little bit of drama llama. And that's what this is. He should have just pretty much said point blank, I gave them a chance to match. Didn't work out. We're parting ways. I wish nothing but the best of luck to them. But no, we had to do it this way. And this is the kind of stuff of why he's not a Giant anymore. Point blank. So, like I said, wish him nothing but the best. Again, appreciate everything he did while he was a Giant. But you can't be making yourself a story like that a year later. Same as we said with the Barkley thing, with his mom talking trash about the Giants. It's a year later, guys. Get over it.
Yeah.
We keep telling the fans to get over it. And this is part of why the fans have trouble getting over it. Because this stuff.
Bygones be got bygones.
Yeah. So, all righty. Let's get back to more positive news here. We got to talk about Tyler Newman. Ironically, the guy replaced, Xavier McKinney. And he says he is ready to lead. So it was a Giants.com interview. He said, I felt like I grew a lot this year, not only as a football player, but as a man too. Just being around the guys, being around this great staff and grinding every day, just growing together and growing through those pains, but getting better at the same time. That's my safety. That is as well said as possible. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a Giants.com interview. So who knows if the Giants gave him a cue card? But that's the way to speak to the media, guys. Of all the negative stuff that I have seen, I don't mean like people being negative about the Giants per se, but the stuff that I've seen feedback from the media going, whoa, so-and-so just said this. You cannot spin that in any way, shape, or form to get yourself a clickbait tagline. You can't. That is as well said as possible. He's acknowledging we went through pains. We grew together, though, as a result of it. That is about as good as possible to do there. He said, talked about his injury, coming back from his ankle injury. He said it's really more of a mental thing, especially in trying to get back and really get back into it, but also being away from the game because you put so much into it. I've been doing this my whole life, and it's really hard to get away from the game that you love. So it's really more of a mental thing than physical because you're always going to be working. I'm young, and I feel like I'm going to recover well, but the mental part is what's been the toughest. So, yeah, like I said, I think we got a good one there. I really do. I mean, think about it, guys. He was leading the team in tackles before he got injured. He was leading all defensive rookies in tackles before he got injured. What I need from him this year to work on is the takeaways. And he did it in Minnesota. So I know he's got it in him. And I don't know if this was a scheme issue. I don't know if this was him picking up the NFL pace, so to speak. I really think that this is a guy that could be a really good player in this league for quite a number of years. Anybody who watches us on a regular basis, watched this last year, knows Rob and I were very big proponents of getting Tyler Newman because we thought he was a perfect guy to replace Xavier McKinney as best you can. Obviously, McKinney outplayed Newman last year. There's no doubt on that one. But in the long term, if these guys are even close to each other the next year or two, then it was a good move for the Giants.
Yeah.
Big difference in money, that's for sure. It's going to be.
I was about to say, you have to pay this guy $18 million. Whatever.
Like I said, it's the same as we talked about with Barkley. You replace the guy who's going to make what I think McKinney. I had to look at the numbers, but I think it was $16 million a year, or something like that. And you replace him with the guy who's going to make a couple $1 million at best. It's a sound move, and this is why when you look at the stuff that Shane does, and again, he does it in a jerk way, and this is the big issue we have with him, like way he talk trash about Barkley and stuff like that. But when you look at what's going on, he values the prime position, so to speak: quarterback, offensive line, the defensive line, corner, and this is why he drafts these guys. Look at what he's done in the first round. He's drafted edge rusher. He's drafted, the cornerback. He's drafted offensive tackle, now wide receiver. He's picking specifically prime targets at that point. That's one thing I do agree with him. But this was a good pick. I think. And I think in the long term it's going to come out pretty well for the Giants. I really do. So we'll see if I'm right. Hopefully I am. Hopefully. All righty. One more topic here, and then we're going to get to your comments. Except we're going to probably, go ahead and skip Dakota because he's just being mean. But we had a topic pop up that we weren't expecting to talk about in the comments section there yesterday, talking about Dillon Gabriel, who I've been much higher on than I think most people have been in this upcoming draft here. And the big knock on him has been his height. So I want to talk about it. Is Dillon Gabriel too short for the NFL?
No.
Well, way to kill the segment.
Yes.
Okay, guys, we're done. But okay, so he's 5'10", guys, and I feel like people are acting like he's 5'5". So here's what you got: 5'10", guys. Okay, Kyler Murray, Bryce Young, currently 5'10". Now, are those guys light the world on fire kind of quarterbacks? No, I'm not trying to say, but I've also never said Gabriel is light the world on fire quarterback either. His ceiling is probably mid-tier quarterback as a starter, and his floor is probably long-term backup. And I think probably the backup role is probably more what he's going to be like, but he's a guy I think you can get the mid-round that has the potential to develop at that point there. Russell Wilson, 5'11". You can go back and look at some of the previous guys that succeeded as his height. Doug Flutie was his height. He had his Flutie flakes. He was 5'10". You have plenty of guys who were rated 6 foot that succeeded. Drew Brees, Michael Vick, Fran Tarkenton, Joe Theismann. And obviously that's now adding 2 inches. That's not 100% right where he was at there. But I'm saying, like, this is not as crazy an anomaly as people are making it seem like. It's happened. You got 2 guys in the league right now that are starting quarterbacks at his height. If he comes in and develops into starter, hypothetically, that'd be a third guy. That'd be 10% of the starting quarterbacks in this league, basically, at his height. Not as crazy as you would think.
No, but apparently they don't make it in the NFL, so.
Yeah, like I said, and don't get me wrong, it's an outlier. And that's a lot of people don't like outliers. They don't. And what they like is they like people that are fit the box of 6'2", 230 pounds, can throw a long ball with spiral. And here's a guy who's 5'10", does more short routes and doesn't have the arm strength. Probably because he has short arms as well, But people don't like that kind of stuff because he doesn't fit that box of the typical. And I think you got to get out sometimes of that box and go, you know what? Here's a guy who succeeded at 3 different colleges. And if I can get him in at a mid-round pick, why not bring him in and see what he can do? I don't see the issue with that. Again, I'm not saying a first-round pick, but if he's sitting there in the 3rd round and you don't got a quarterback yet, why not take the risk? Ain't going to hurt. It's a 3rd-round pick. One less Josh Azudu on this roster. One less Cordell Flott in this roster. It's not like we've hit on 3rd-round picks lately, guys. So he clearly can potentially succeed at this height. We can also acknowledge, though, that it's a disadvantage, because it is point blank a disadvantage. The question is, does he have enough of talent to go ahead and overcome that? And that's what we're going to have to find out.
Yeah, I mean, you got some players that, obviously, like you said, this statue of the quarterback is usually about 5 inches taller. But, I mean, there's plenty of quarterbacks that see at this height. There's also quarterbacks that are like 6'7", 6'8", that
they don't succeed either usually.
Yeah, they bomb out of the league. They're terrible.
Brock Osweiler, that guy comes to mind. I think he was like 6'6" or something like that.
Jamarcus Russell was like 6'8".
Yeah, but yeah, that's where it's at. I mean,
it's throw the ball 70 yards.
All righty, guys, let's get to your comments. And first off, before we get to the comments, Dakota, stop being sensitive. We're messing with you. Typical Philly fan, can't take a joke. All right, let's see here. Deb says Phil Simms went through that. He was Moorhead College, and people said who, where? Yeah, I mean that's a classic example. I think that's probably where the issue of the college that Phil Simms went to probably is what also attributed to him being a starter, not being the starter very early on in his career. People look at what happened with his career and think that him and Parcells were attached at the hip at all times. No, Parcells wasn't sure on him for the first couple of years. Wasn't at all. Like he's been demoted a couple of times. He was kind of like the Mike Kafka of quarterbacks there. Take the play calling, give it back. Take the play calling, give it back.
Julio.
Jay says hot take time. Deb says Tracy did better with a better O-line than we had last year. You could see that the first couple of games, Deb, I think you could. But you got to keep in mind that Tyrone Tracy didn't play the first few weeks when that line was still healthy. He played with the battered up version of the line mostly. And he did very well until he had an injury of his own later on. And that kind of made him trail off towards the end of the year. But if you compare the line that he did this middle of the season to last year's, I don't think it's that far different. We were getting third string guys. I mean, you can say about guys off the couch, Chris Hubbard, guy off the couch, basically. Jake Kubis, a guy who was never supposed to play this year. Again, it was injuries. I think the line was better to start the season, that's for sure. But I can't sit there and say it was great. Illuminor good, Van Roten good. But the rest of the spots were kind of, no. Jay says, who knows, Deb? Saquon with our fixed line might have done well. Not better than he did in Philly, though. Yeah, no, definitely not. She agrees. She says, I'm certainly not rooting for the Eagles, but I'm glad Barkley is with a team where he can showcase his talent. Yeah, like I said, I think we can separate the two and sit there and say, good for him. He's got a spot where he seems happy and he seems, be obviously having better success than he had in the Giants. Nothing wrong with that. Though I do think it's a little crazy. Last year, remember how many times we say he lost a step? He's having trouble, breaking free at that point there. He'd be running and have room and people would catch up to him. It's kind of weird that's not happening this year. And I think he knew. I think he was just miserable. And that's not me blaming him when I say it. I think he was just miserable. We all see that where you don't like, if you don't like your job, you don't perform as well. That's just business. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's part of the problems he had. And we took it as him losing a step. And it was potentially just him not, and I want to say not giving it his all, because I think he was giving all he could, but not able to give 100% because of the issues he was having otherwise, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
So Jay says, Rob looks like a guy who did me dirty on a timeshare 5 years ago. Oh, he found you. He found you.
Hey, guys, got to go.
Listen, Jay, you just got to enjoy those 2 weeks in Maui that you get once every 5 years, okay?
Yeah. Continue to play. I know the APR is terrible, but you can refinance the next 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. Deb says, agree, Jay. No, I'm kidding, because she said that after the comment. It's going to put that there. Jay said, I think Shane was jerking him around, and that's what Deb was agreeing to. Jay says, it's so annoying, though, when you have excellent players, you got to use 2 picks to replace them right away. It's like treading water. Yeah. And that's what we did with this draft. We tried to replace McKinney and Barkley. And like I said, all things considered, I don't think we did bad at that. Would you expect a rookie running back and a rookie safety to do just as well as a seasoned veteran that's still in their prime? I think if you think that, you're crazy if you expected that. But I think when you got a guy who came in his rookie season and missed a third of the year and still had just shy of 100 tackles, and you got another guy who had over 1,000 yards as a rookie, obviously we're talking receiving and rushing, but still had over 1,000 yards as a rookie, as a 5th round pick rookie, by the way. Again, can't complain. That's a pretty good replacement, and the value is there of paying, $2 million and change probably. I can look up Newman's number, probably $2 million and change what the number comes out to be, compared to paying, 27 million probably, or 28 million for those two combined at that point. Though it's a big difference, guys, for 2 positions that you don't typically pay a lot of money to. They're not high paid positions. So Deb says, we got nothing for Barkley. Why didn't they trade him and at least come away with something? I would say also, why didn't they look at what they were going to do and not offer him a contract, which I think was the plan basically, and not trade him? It's one thing if you actually wanted to try to keep him. They obviously didn't want to, You there, Rob? We lose you? I think we lost Rob there momentarily. He sent me a message. I didn't even realize if we were talking. So he'll be back in a second there. So, yeah, you look at what's going on, and like I said, they replaced 2 guys. And I think they didn't do that horrible a job at it, really. Jay says, I think they wanted to use the tag as a weapon to get him cheaper than just saw teams willing to pay well and let him go. They didn't want to even pay the tag, I think. And I think there was probably a handshake agreement they wouldn't pay the tag again because they did it once. He says, us sucking makes it so hard to let it go. I get it. He says, Austin Ekeler was on that TikTok dancer cult Netflix show. What? I don't even know what show we're talking about here. That it says running backs played longer back then. Yeah, they did. He said Emmitt Smith, Otis Anderson, mid-30s. Otis Anderson, though, keep in mind, was a backup for, the second half of his career, too, as part of it. Emmitt Smith was kind of an outlier. He just played forever and kept on trucking along. That's why he is the rushing yards leader. Jay says, Darnold brings decent gameplay, but puts us in QB hell for longer. Exactly. And then Deb says, sounds like Steelers are keeping Fields. Exactly. Dakota boos us. Just boos us. And then Jay says, free agency starts way before the draft. We aren't guaranteed a QB at 3. Kind of risky not signing the best QB you can. Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all there. There's a risk. And like I said, I'm not against getting the best QB you can. It's just the best QB you can for your situation. If you sign Darnold, you have to think that he's the long-term solution. And I've heard people say, point blank, get Darnold. I've heard plenty of people say, go get Darnold and then get Travis Hunter in the first overall pick and look at the amazing offense you could potentially have. And Hunter basically would replace Slayton in that scenario there. I'm not so sure that's a great replacement option, but, I've heard people say that. Get Darnold and then go get Travis Hunter. But like I said, to me, I want a quarterback. I want a new quarterback. I want to double up on quarterback. I want to have quarterbacks coming out the wazoo. Keep on hitting until we get one. I'm just tired of just not going after one.
Yeah.
And then Dakota says, i.e. the 2 guys above us. Wait, he said us. Dakota, are we converting you to a Giants fan?
Yeah, right?
Is that what's happening? It'd be a really ironic time to convert to a Giants fan while your other team is in the Super Bowl, but okay. Jay says, lots of these older quarterbacks aren't wanting to play in New York, in my humble opinion, unless it's a serious overpay or desperate. I think it's a desperate thing for them. If you're a guy like Russell Wilson, how many opportunities do you think you have to start?
Not many.
Probably not many.
Probably doesn't want to go to the Raiders either.
No. I mean, if anything, he might want to go to the Raiders to play for Pete Carroll.
Touche.
I could see that being a thing, but let's be honest and also say the fact that Pete Carroll is the guy who traded him.
Yep.
Well, I mean, Pete Carroll himself, he wasn't the GM, but I mean, he was involved in that decision, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. We talked about this on this podcast when it happened. Sneaky Pete knew something that a lot of people didn't know. That's why he's good at what he does.
Oh, yeah, they got a lot for him. So
yep.
You wouldn't get that for him now a couple years later, that's for damn sure. Dakota says NFC East has 2 great quarterbacks. Are you saying Dak Prescott is a great quarterback, Dakota? I'm just trying to see where he is there. Like I said, I don't think that that there's really great quarterbacks in the NFC East right now. And honestly, I'm trying to take my Giants fan cap off when I say this. But I look at, Jaden Daniels, and he has the potential to be called one, but I'm not going to call somebody a great quarterback after one season. You look at Dak Prescott, he's a great regular season quarterback and falls apart in the postseason, so that makes it difficult to call him a great quarterback overall. You look at Jalen Hurts, and my problem with Hurts, and I'm just being honest, like it's not, again, not me being just trying to be a hater here. I have trouble calling him a great quarterback with everything he has around him. I think time is going to tell if he's a great quarterback, because eventually at some point, some of that nucleus is going to go away. And it's like when you have 2 Pro Bowl receivers, when you have the best offensive line in football, when you have a really good tight end, you have now the best running back in football. I can't trust my eyes of what I'm seeing as him and not him. And, oh, yeah, by the way, he's not even lighting the world on fire with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
not with his arm, at least. You combine his arm and his legs, his touchdown totals have been pretty good. But it's not like he's a guy throwing 50 touchdowns and crazy stuff like that. And not to say I'm setting the bar that high necessarily. Like I said, I think time will tell what Jalen Hurts really is. And I'll get you guys in a little secret, and I've said it before on the show. I don't hate Jalen Hurts, guys. I really don't. I dislike him because of the Eagle thing and stuff like that. But like I said, when I was at the Pro Bowl last year, guys, he spent more time with anybody else as far as, spending time with kids, signing autographs, stuff like that, anybody else on those rosters. And I will respect that. And I will always respect that because I saw it with my own eyes. People walked by the crowd point blank. Walked by the crowd. He stopped. He stopped talking to the kids. He stopped and signed autographs. I will give him respect for that point blank because not a lot of players did it.
Kudos to him.
So, yeah, seriously. Like, that shows a lot of character. So, it's not me hating on him. It's just the reality of when you're on a stacked team like that, it's hard for me to evaluate you and say that what you're doing is great when I don't know if it's you or the people around you.
Yeah.
Plus, I have trouble getting that Hail Mary at the end of the Super Bowl out of my head. I'm sorry. I just do. It's like 5 yards down the field. Dakota says, fire Joe Lane. We already said we want to fire Joe Schoen. Deb says, wonder if Wilson will go back with Pete Carroll. That's what we're just talking about. Yeah. He says, wow. Dakota says, I don't think they liked each other much, Deb. And that's what we're saying just then. I think the trade kind of solidified that, I could see where that would go, but, and then Dakota's his second Super Bowl appearance for Hurts. And again, that's a team thing. And I get that it's just kind of a shame because sometimes you get quarterbacks that get all the credit for it, and sometimes they get none of the credit for it. But that's a stacked team you got there in Philly. I'm sorry, it is. I don't want to admit it because I'm a Giants fan, but it's the truth. Stacked team. I don't know which part is him. Deb says, I wasn't sure how it ended, Jay. And Jay says, after that ATV incident, you can tell they didn't want him, talking about Xavier McKinney. Then said, yeah, we could have got the defensive tackle Fisk in the second round if we re-signed X. Yeah, could have. We also could have got a defensive tackle at some point in the draft. And again, it's hard to knock this draft class because it was so damn good. But I'm still a little bitter about us leaving the defensive line situation so, barren. we had great edge rushers, good linebackers, you had deep Dexter Lawrence, but tell me the rest of that defensive line wasn't a shit show besides Dexter Lawrence.
It was dumped fire.
Yeah, exactly. Jason's treading water, homie. I don't know which one we're talking about there, but look, I think Dakota says, but Drew says there's only one great quarterback in the NFC East, and he's a rookie. Look at the win-loss ratio, man. Bad take. I'm looking at the play. And he says, not about the numbers, but winning. Hurts always finds a way to win. That's all that matters. Hurts doesn't. The Eagles do. Hurts says, sup, fellas. Jay says, yo. And Jay says, people are catching on to the Cowboys being cheap. I feel like that is the same happening with the Giants, too. I don't think it is fully. I think the Giants are willing to pay. It's just they're willing to pay for prime positions. Look at Burns last year. Look at Runyon last year. We overpaid for both those two guys. So let's see here.
Yeah.
More Dakota saying about Joe Schoen sucks. We know that. Jay says, great. Paul Dottino going to tell us he is Ed Reed now talking about Tyler Newman. Yeah, I think Paul Dottino is definitely as much a homer as you could ever come across in the Giants media. But it's weird, though, because he kept getting on Malik Neighbors' case of all people last year. Just saying. Let's see then. He says Dottino's acting like Evan Neal with Orlando Pace. Let's see. Dakota says, I feel bad for Brian Dable. He's part of the problem. He says, literally delusional here. Let us be delusional, damn it. And then Jay says, must be awesome being a rookie running back or safety, knowing Joe Schoen ain't paying you before you even put a jersey on. Well, I don't think I have to worry about it. That's for sure. I don't think that you'll be seeing him. That's for sure. Oh my gosh, Dakota. I'm looking at all the comments you left. So I appreciate all the comments, man, but I can't get to all these comments. You got like 30
it's
comments.
Crazy.
Here. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. Anyway. Like I said, I ain't hating as much as I think he thinks I was hating, that's for sure. So yeah, that's gonna call it a night for us, guys. We'll be back, of course, Monday for you guys. As always, we are live every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, X/Twitter, Twitch, and of course, Rob's favorite, my LinkedIn profile. And of course, as always, we're available the next day on all the audio podcast platforms as well. That is, of course, on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon, all the big ones there. Appreciate you guys for listening. If you haven't already, do me a favor. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share button, hit that thumbs up if you're on YouTube there, guys. Much appreciated. And if you want, share it to a friend. Because that's what gets us, more views, is people helping us spread the word, because we suck at marketing. We can't do it. We're bad. We've tried. It's not good. If we were in a marketing class, we'd be flunking. That's for sure. So, appreciate you guys again for listening, as always. And as always, Giant fans, go Giants! Go Giants!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.